you at the bottom where it says mute, and then make sure your volume is all the way down.
Okay.
All right, Jesse. Thank you.
Mute. Okay.
Sounds great conversation.
Likewise.
Nice meeting you.
Likewise.
Oh.
That's what happens when I come around.
Oh, no.
Thanks, guys.
She says school districts will continue
Uh,
with the application
oh.
process. Voice the USDA for students who qualify for free and reduced meals. And the state will cover the costs for students who don't meet the criteria. State funding will come through the newly
Put your
established
headphones on a
Food
second to
Security
see.
Fund, which will include money from the general fund, grants, and medical marijuana taxes. Lane says one
Are you
in four
hearing
children
good?
in Arkansas faces hunger. And
Yeah,
the
I can hear.
legislation is one way to level the
Can
playing
you hear through
field.
your headphones?
No, I can't hear anything.
And we know that there's a lot of people
Hello?
out there.
Hello?
They are
Testing,
not
testing.
going to
No, just through your headphones.
No, I don't hear anything.
They hardly have any.
Lane says they
Hello?
eventually hope to
He's the
offer
second one,
grants to students.
the one next to that one.
Like Freda Ross, Arkansas News
This
Service,
is him right here.
indicators,
Right there.
publicnewsservice.org.
The third one.
This is me. So he has to be the first one.
Uh-huh.
Still can't hear anything coming.
No, I don't hear anything.
I can't either. Turn mine up and let me see. I can.
Huh?
I can hear. Still can't get it. I look confused now. I went and got some sense.
Yeah, I can hear it.
You got it.
Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, you heard the music. It's about 9 o'clock, so you know what time it is. It's time for the workplace. Here on KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. It's a beautiful Thursday. We are in studio, got a lot of things going on, got a great conversation going on. Got a special guest in studio today, Mr. Sean Washington. Mr. Sean Washington. But before we get started, I want to give my fierce, strong, black woman co-host the opportunity to speak to everybody. Good morning, Denise.
Good morning, Grand Rising humans.
Uh-huh.
You want me to wait for when do I do the announcement?
You know what? Let's go ahead and get the announcements.
Go ahead and get the announcements. Okay. I do have a few announcements for you this morning. It is so good to be here with you. Of course, I cannot wait for this conversation. I am super excited about it, and I'm glad that you are here with us for it. But I want you to know that there's a bill that's running. It was supposed to run today, but I don't know if you remember that we had Julie Gomez and Claire on the show. We were talking about youth fines and fees. And so we want to make sure that you are aware that action is needed so that we can stop the bill that would give $750 million for a prison bill. This is Senate Bill 354, and it has to have 75% of the votes to pass. And so we need people to call in and say, we do not want to spend $750 million for prison bill. Think about what that could do for the community. If we were pouring that money into the community, think about what that could do. So we are excited about the opportunity for you to use your voice and get involved in civic engagement and call and let the people know. We've got Peyton, Hammer, Hickey, Flippo, McKee, Lundstrom, and Wooten. Those are the people who are on that committee. I also want you to know, those of you who are calling for Bill Black, yes, 501-503-2988. The next meeting for those of you who this will be your first time meeting with us, it will be on Monday at 7:00 p.m. If you have already been a match, if you have already been told that you are a match for the initiative, then you have the address. If you are still interested, again, the number is 501-503-2988. That is for Build Black, those of us who are working as a nation to live outside of the system. And I feel like I'm supposed to have one more announcement, but I can't find it right now. If it comes up, I'll interrupt Toney.
Okay, so I have a few announcements to get to this morning. Attention Arkansas, this week, stand up and speak out. Join us for a protest, a vigil, and a march as we push back against oligarchy in the fight for democracy. So there were two protests on Tuesday. One was at 3 p.m. at the Capitol, Little Rock. The other one was March for Democracy. And that was at 1 p.m. in Fayetteville. So this Thursday, March 6th, is a vigil and protest from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. at Representative French Hill's office at 1501 North University, Suite 150 in Little Rock. On Friday, March 7th, there's Stand Up for Science protest. That's 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. the Capitol. Saturday, March 8th, the People's March, Women's March, 10 a.m. at the Capitol, marching to River Market. Saturday, March 8th, Politics Beyond the Ballot Box, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. UALR downtown, 333 President Clinton Avenue. You can follow updates on Instagram, 50501 Arkansas, Facebook, Hear AR Voices, and 50501 Arkansas, Blueski, 50501 Arkansas. Your voice matters. Show up, speak out. See you there. No Tears Project at UA Pulaski Tech. The No Tears Project, a jazz collective blending music with a message of social justice, will perform at UA Pulaski Tech Charts Theater on Saturday, March 8th at 7:30 p.m. Led by vocalist Kelly Hurt and pianist Christopher Parker, the group honors civil rights heroes through powerful compositions inspired by the fight for equality. This performance coincides with the release of their new album, Humanitics, featuring works by Oliver Lake, Donald Brown, Bobby Lavelle, and more. Originally commissioned to honor the Little Rock Nine, the No Tears Project continues to celebrate resilience, progress, and the pursuit of justice through music. For more information, visit uaptc.edu/charts. UA Pulaski Tech also will host Women's History Month, a panel discussion. Join UA Pulaski Tech as they celebrate Women's History Month with a special panel discussion on Tuesday, March 18th at 11 a.m. at the Charts Theater on the UAPTC main campus in North Little Rock. A reception starts at 10:30 a.m. in the Charts lobby, leading into a discussion moderated by Dr. Anna Hunt, Provost and Chief Academic Officer. This year's theme is Moving Forward Together, Women Educating and Inspiring Generations. Highlights this impact of women in education, leadership, and mentorship. Featured panelists include Keisa M. Smith-Brantley, Dr. Shauna Spriggs-Rory, and Kathy Owen, leaders in advocacy, education, and business. The Arkansas Women's Hall of Fame will also recognize 2 outstanding female students with scholarships. This event is open to the public and the UAPTC community. For more details, visit uaptc.edu. And we're still giving away free CDs here at KABF 88.3 FM. Attention music lovers, we're clearing out our collection and giving away free CDs in a variety of genres, including jazz, country, rock, world, movie soundtracks, compilations, and more. Find your next favorite album and build your music collection. CDs are available for pickup Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Location 2101 South Main Street here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Spread the word and stop by to grab some treasures while supplies last. It's first come, first served, so don't miss out. Support and donate to KABF.org.
And I do remember the announcement that I need to make. Those of you who are following the protest of Target, today is the day that the fast starts. This is being led by Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant, who is the pastor of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Decatur, Georgia. And all of us are being asked to follow Dr. King. Dr. King talked about this in his speech before he died. He talked about this. Operation Breadbasket talked about this, the power of economic withdrawal. So for those of you who are interested in fasting, since this is the season of Lent, we're going to start today and it's going to end. I'll say it doesn't end until April 20th, which is Easter. And so we're going to start today. Those of you who are interested, you can go to targetfast.org, targetfast.org. You can sign up, you can get your toolkit, you can get all of those things that you need to help you. And then once you sign up, you get on the email list and they'll send you a prayer journal. A prayer journal for those of you who this is a faithful act of civil disobedience that you are doing. Want to let you know that that is happening. It starts today all the way through until Easter. And because we are withdrawing from Target, we are sending you to those Black-owned businesses that you can support. And if you're looking for that business, go to buyblack.us. Buy Black US, BYBLACK. So I wanted to make sure that you are aware that everyone is being asked to participate in this economic withdrawal.
Okay, thank you, Denise. And so, as I stated earlier, we have a guest in the studio this morning, Mr. Sean Washington. And Mr. Washington, we can take an opportunity just to greet our listening audience before we get into this discussion.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Glad to be here.
Okay, so if anybody who's been following, and then I think everybody has been, what has taken place in this first 46 days of the Trump administration, I think it's 46. Some of the things that's been happening. One of the major things that has been happening is this just dismantling of the federal workforce, and it's been targeted in certain areas that really affect not only workers, not only those federal workers who are losing their jobs, who are being unjustly dismissed. There are court battles fighting against that, but we see that it's still this dismantling still going on. And also for the people who are being affected by this dismantling, whether it's people who are on Social Security, people on Medicaid, Medicare, education, people who are depending on aid, USAID, who donates so much time and effort to other places, other countries that will help develop them, and for funds that are being used for research and education and different things here in the U.S. And one of the areas that has been targeted also is the Department of Veteran Affairs. The Department of Veteran Affairs has been historically has been an issue. It has been at times not run properly. There's a lot of things going on with that, and now that thousands of VA employees are being let go, medical services are being delayed. A lot of things are happening. And also they want to go back. One of the things that they're doing is want to go back and reevaluate any veteran who are receiving services. And so Mr. Washington, who is a disabled vet, wanted him to come on to not only talk about the impact of these services not being there on that level, but also have a discussion about what's going on with these federal employees and what's going on in the community. I know he has some information for veterans who are seeking assistance also. So, Mr. Washington, you have already greeted the listening audience. Can you just talk about how you feel about what's going on with not only dismantling of the federal government, how you believe it's going to affect those veterans who need those services?
Again, hello. It's going to affect the veterans to the 100th power because, a lot of us suffer in silence. So those that need the help do not go seek help. So that's one variable. Then you have those that seek help, and with all these programs being cut, they won't have that said help. You understand what I'm saying? So I have to go back. I was homeless about a year and a half ago. So I was at the veteran shelter over there off Asher, and to see a lot of the veterans that were felons and uh, heroin addicts, crackheads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and with the pulling of all this funding and these programs, they may not have the veteran homeless shelter or the other centers that are out there to help disabled veterans or veterans in general. So I think it's very disheartening for all these programs to be cut without a resolution in sight.
Yeah, and also we have to take a step back. When you say going back, we have to go. We have to go back. We have to go back into the history of this country and its role in how it has treated veterans, especially Black veterans.
True.
Black veterans, even going through the VA, still have a harder time getting whether it's disability compensation, different things through the VA. And I know, Mr. Washington, you are a member of the American Legion Post 74, which is the Michael Van Johnson Jr. Post. Michael Van Johnson and the building where the post is located, the Jack Stevens Senior Care Center in Sherwood. They both are named after Black veterans who had an impact in trying to get services for Black veterans. And so when you see this dismantling, we want to have a discussion about throughout the past, throughout history, those Black veterans that have served this country, who have served in the military, have always had it a more difficult opportunity, a more difficult challenge in trying to receive the benefits, receive the services. And with these services being interrupted, do you believe it's going to be more, you're going to see more of that gap between Black veterans and white veterans?
Yes, but I think it's across the board because when I was in the homeless shelter, it was white veterans, Black veterans, Mexican veterans, Puerto Rican. I did not know how severe it was down here in Arkansas, the plight of the disabled veteran and the veteran in general. And I think we're all going to be in the same boat, more so the Black ones, but it'll be across the board, all of us needing help. That's why we have to come together.
And when you see, it's already a source. I think it was, there was something, I think a report that said there was something like a 30% shortage in employees at the VA
Yes.
to begin with.
Yes.
And now that because of this dismantling, it's going to go down, down, down. And so it was interesting to hear you talk about being homeless and being a vet. One of the things that happens to me a lot when I'm driving and if I see a vet with a sign says, I'm a veteran, can you help me? And, one of the things that I do is pull over and say, hey, let me take you to Fort Roots, let me take you to McClellan to get these services. And one of the things that is so interesting that there are a lot of veterans who will look at me and say, I've been there. I've been there and nothing happened. I was there, and it was almost like I was lost. Eventually, I just got lost in the shuffle. Can you just talk about your experiences with the VA and how it could be improved in some ways?
Well, when I got down here, and it's a lot of things that went on. My identity was stolen. My accounts were locked up. I couldn't get to my money. So that ended me out on the street. And I'm down here by myself. You know what I'm saying? I don't have any relatives down here. But let me go back. One of the counselors at the VA clinic helped me get into the shelter, helped me get an apartment. But you said, what can the VA do to service veterans better? I think it has to be the duality of both of them. I was one of the very few that when they was telling me to be at a place at a certain time, I was there 15 minutes early. That's just me. I was doing the research that they told me to, but I was in the capacity that I have to get this done. A lot of the veterans don't know where to start to get things done. You understand what I'm saying? They're battling their demons. So we have to get to the point where we can help those that need help in battling their demons so they can get to the point of seeking out help. Because you see a lot of them out on the street talking to themselves because of the people that they killed when they were deployed in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever they were deployed or whatever job that they did. They need more psychiatrists, psychologists, and therapists. But with them cutting the funding on an already stringent or strapped system, they're only going to get worse. You're going to see more people out on the street, homeless, addicted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think instead of cutting the programs, they need to be initiating more programs and more calls like this, more organizations like the DAV, the VFW, the Legion, and those veterans need to come and seek out help. But until they seek it out, you won't know that they need help.
Yeah, and it's so ironic that you talked about how this impact is going to really just escalate all the issues that are already going on, and and you can take that and you can project it into people who are not veterans. When you start to look at if you get they want to cut. SNAP benefits. They want to cut Medicaid, Medicare. They want to cut Social Security. They want to cut, all these programs work for the benefit of those who need these services. And when you don't have those services, you will see an escalation. When I talk about when I go down to New Orleans and for work, and one of the discussions we had one year was how the city of New Orleans is after Katrina, the homeless population just boomed. And it was really crazy because they were asking, well, what happened? How did we get here with this homeless population? And they're like, duh, you didn't provide services after Katrina. You didn't provide funds to rebuild homes. You didn't provide funds to rebuild communities. And there were people who didn't have nowhere to go. Yes, you relocated a lot of residents, but there were some people who were like, this is my home. Why should I be forced to leave and not be able to come back? And because those services aren't there, then this is what you can
True.
look at. I just want to say the phone lines are open 501-433-0088, 501-433-0088. If you want to call and ask questions, you want to call and join the conversation. Also, if you want to give comments on Facebook, you are welcome. So I want to give my co-host Denise an opportunity to weigh in on this topic.
Okay, first let me get these comments in. This one comment, but Lo is on the line. Charles is listening from
What's up,
Uganda.
Charles?
Yeah.
Kampala.
And then we have Deidre. So here's Deidre's comment. I too use colloquialisms, but I have a problem with using the term crackhead due to the connotation of it being racially charged to further denigrate Black people. White people get an opioid crisis. So I want to make sure that we make that. Okay, Sean wants to respond to that.
My apologies, but the crackhead or the person that I was talking about, it was white from West Virginia. So I understand what she's saying, but a vast majority of the people that are crackheads do not have melanin in their skin.
I think she's encouraging you not to use the word crackhead, period. Whether you're talking about white people or Black people, there's another way to say that people are addicted to injection drugs or people are, there's
Good
another
point.
way.
Good point. Okay, so an addict.
Because the way that the narrative in this society is when you say crackhead, a blackface pops up.
Right.
Even though that's not true. We know that's not true about most of the social issues, right? But that's what they do. They put a blackface on it. So I think that's what she's encouraging you to think about.
So, addict.
Okay. I want to know more about your story. Like, I feel like we're getting bits and pieces. Like, clearly you're not from Arkansas. You came here by yourself, like, why by yourself? And then all this stuff happened to you. So can you just share a little bit about who you are, how you got here, what brought you to this space?
Okay, I'm originally from St. Louis. I was accepted into the elite program at Boeing, the law school here. And due to medical issues, 2 years in a row, I was pulled out of the program. So I have to wait until next year to start back. And so I started a PhD program down here. But again, medical issues hindered me from going forward with that. So now I'm working on my health now, and I've lost 89 pounds. So, so my A1C went from a 13.9, it's down to a 7.9, and I go again in 3 weeks to get it checked again.
That reminds me, we've been talking about the singer, the late R&B singer, Angie Stone. Angie Stone, too, had diabetes, and she is the face of a collaboration with Eli Lilly and this organization called FACE, F-A-C-E, to encourage us, particularly as Black folks, to think about our health, to think about different ways that we can manage diabetes, to think about how we can exercise and eat so that we don't get diabetes. So I thought about that when you said your A1C, because that's related to diabetes, right? And so I just wanted to remind us that Angie Stone is not just an R&B singer, but also a community activist advocating on behalf of Black folks, especially as it relates to diabetes. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for those who know me closely, know that I'm always having, from time to time, I'm having a battle with my health, and sometimes in a good way, sometimes it's in a physical way, sometimes it's in a mental way. And when you talk about these health issues that so many people have, and especially so many people in the Black community, and then you think about that so many times the services that we depend on, whether it's the VA, whether it's health care, the affordable health care, or Medicaid, Medicare, whatever it is, we depend on, so many people depend on these services, and when those services are interrupted, it can exponentially affect your health care. And I am one that I am so concerned about my health care, even though I do things that are detrimental to my health care. I still, from time to time, have these meltdowns about my health care. And one of the things that really makes it even more is when I can't get those services that I need, or if I have to be put off for an appointment, or if I feel something is wrong in my body and I can't get in to get it taken care of. And so there's a lot of people, and I know we're talking about veterans, but we're also talking about the broader community, because what's happening is not just happening with veterans, it's happening with so many other people in the community. When you take away the funding that really helps these services, it becomes, to me, this idea that the people who are making these decisions, the power structures, don't value who you are, don't care about who you are, and really don't give a damn about who you are, because they would rather see you homeless, mentally ill in the streets. They would rather see you there than to really emphasize an opportunity to help give you the resources that you need. Would both of you agree with that assessment?
I do. I will tell you the first 50 pounds came off from the movement that was the VA put me in. They send you a scale. They give you all these books to read, link you in with a dietitian. And I'm pretty sure that'll be one of the programs that'll be cut. So you have a lot of veterans that are type 1 and type 2 diabetics, and they're having a hard time. Because when I had my first move meeting, it was nothing but people of color. We were like 20 deep in there. And I just made it up in my mind I was not going to come back or be a statistic, because I was told that if I did not get my sugar under control, I might start losing limbs. And so that was the flip and switch for me. But it was because of the MOVE program via the VA. So, and I'm pretty sure it will be cut. And just imagine how many other folks that didn't show up to the meeting to get all the information from the MOVE program. You know what I'm saying?
I wonder, I want to go back to something that you said when you first started talking at the very beginning of the show, when you were introduced. You said that many of you as veterans suffer in silence. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you can speak to that. Like, what do you think is one of the reasons, or even several, if you want to list a litany of reasons as to why veterans would suffer in silence?
You know, it comes back from our training in the military. You got to suck it up, buttercup, and keep it moving. Mm-hmm. I just had my last supervisor from the military, commit suicide January the 5th. And I had just spoken to him like a day or two prior. He didn't say anything about didn't say anything about he was depressed or anything. And this is a man who scored a 350 on his PT test every time he was out there. A father of 3, a husband, a big brother, a little, whatever the case may be. He never said anything to me about him being depressed. My battle buddy of 30 years, I got off the phone with him day before yesterday. And he was like, "Watch, it's a good thing that I'm not able to buy a gun, because I probably would use it." So I said, "Gene, are you okay?" He said, "I'm fine." And he changed the subject. So I went back to him. I said, "Gene, are you okay?" He changed the subject. And that's what a lot of veterans do. We got this in our mind that we have to do what we have to do because of the mission. You understand what I'm saying? And a lot of people don't understand that. So when I see veterans that are perplexed or there but not there, I say, "What's going on? How you doing? Or you're Air Force, Navy, Army, or Marines?" Because it's an unspoken rivalry to this day that we all rag on each other when we're in meetings with each other. You didn't work, you don't have a job, you don't know what to do, we go in first, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of them, they're still programmed in that military mind. We need to do whatever we need to do to get to tomorrow. And they don't say anything about what they're going through today.
I think that that's more than just a military mindset. When I think about myself as a Black woman in America, many of us have been conditioned the same way, that we don't have time. You don't
Right.
have time to cry. You don't have time to be sick. You don't have
Right.
time to tend your body. You don't have time to tend your brain health, because you've got work to do. You got
Yes.
children to care for.
You
You got a
gotta make
house
it
to clean.
happen.
You got a job.
Yeah.
You have all of these things. And so we don't give ourselves the grace, and the world certainly does not give us the grace to say, this is just not the day for me. Like, I need a mental health break. I need
True.
some time. And many of us don't take off. We should take off work sometimes. If you don't feel like you are there mentally prepared, you should take a mental health day. And we don't get permission to do that. Some of us don't have jobs that allow for us to take off. You take off and you don't get paid, those kinds of things. So I think that there's a military mindset, of course, but I also think that that is probably not just Black women, but Black people might feel that same kind of pressure to always perform, and not just to perform, but outperform and overperform in order to be considered mediocre, even though you're outperforming mediocrity.
And to get half as far.
Say it again.
And to get half as far with all.
Oh, half as far. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because, you know, it's just not, this conversation is just not locked into one area. It's just not locked in to veterans. It's not just locked in to community. It's just not locked in to the different things. It's this confluence that affects, you know, so many people, community, VA, or however you want to look at it. And I think you're right, Denise. It goes back to this conditioning. And you know, and one of the questions when I was in these work groups with veterans and these sessions with different veterans, one of the questions, don't forget, one of the therapists who was doing the group asked this question, you know, why did you join the military? Why did, and it threw everybody off, because we would never ask.
True.
And once we start going deeper into that conversation, you start to see there was some conditioning already there before you actually got to the military that further exacerbated that condition.
I will say this. I know a lot of us ran from something to something. So when they kick you out of the military, or you ETS, or you retire, and you don't have anything to go back to, that make the situation worse. Because that's what I encountered with a lot of the veterans that was in the homeless shelter. It was people that live here in Little Rock that didn't have anyone to call on, even though they had come from large families here in Little Rock, that they were in the homeless shelter. And that's when I thought about it. A lot of us ran from something to something. And when we don't have that something that we ran to anymore, where do you go?
Yeah, and it's also interesting that when you look at the commercials, and me, I had older relatives who were in the Army, and they would come back. They would give me this view. They would give me, you know, hey, you know, Germany is this, and, you know, you can travel, but they didn't give me this part. They didn't give me, well, this is what's going to cost you. You know, yeah, you can have this, but it's going to cost you something. And so when you finally get in and you go through basic, and basically, you can call it conditioning, brainwashing, you know, whichever way you want to look at it. But then it becomes so ingrained with you that, like you said, once you leave it, what do I do? And I think going back to what one of the things that Denise was talking about is, you know, in BO Black, and also in the boycott of Target, you have become so conditioned over here for this thing, you know, and you're like, okay, I'm going to leave this, but I don't know what to expect over here. And instead of looking at it as it may be a greater opportunity for you, it may be more freedom over here, it may be something better for you over here, but because you're locked into this conditioning that I have to do it this way. I have to do it this way because that's the way.
Right.
Yeah. Let me take this call. Caller, you on there?
Yes, I would like to say the good thing I see about your conversation is you all woke to the programming because we started getting programming from day one. And just to come conscious of it, you make you do something about it. But programming on the planet is so deep. You really have to work at deprogramming yourself.
That's
I
true.
don't know what classes you can go to the deprogramming yourself. Maybe
That's
y'all can tell me something.
He's right. Because when you get out the military, it's like putting a square.
Okay, thank you, caller.
It's like putting a square in a circle. You're totally different because you were broke down in basic training and build back up a totally different entity. So I get what he's saying. And when you get out, they just throw you out there. Be it if you're retired, ETS, PC, whatever the case may be, they just throw you out there to the world.
So I have this comment from Deidre. She says, when you are trained and charged to kill people that you do not know, and then released back to your community without any time or effort to reprogram yourself, the cognitive dissonance is
Yes.
overwhelming.
Yes.
Cognitive dissonance meaning who you think you are and what you actually do are two different things. And you're trying to live with the fact that I never thought that I would be someone that would kill somebody that I don't know, women, children, whoever it is. And then now I have to deal with the fact that that is what I did. And so how do I reconcile that? And there's nothing in place to help me navigate that. There's nothing in place to help me talk about that. There's nothing in place to help me deal with that. And then you wonder why a person becomes addicted and you shame them for being on drugs, but your behavior, your lack of care for them is what led them to that.
True. And she's right, because that's why I say we need more psychologists, psychiatrists, and therapists. But let me tell you, with the VA now, my next appointment, I have an appointment to check my blood in 2 weeks. My next appointment is not until September, October. So with them cutting further jobs, that appointment after September, October may be not another one again until December of 2026, if that. You understand what I'm saying? So that's how. That's why I say it's going to get worse, far, far worse, with them cutting the 70,000 jobs that they're planning on cutting, because they're already strapped already, and the veterans need their help direly.
And that's why we do talk about this in Build Black. We talk about the importance of understanding that this system and these systems that are working in concert with each other to continue to oppress us, especially as Black folks, the system is not designed for you. They don't care anything about you, but there is a way that we can live outside of the system, because Black people have not always been a part of the healthcare system. And we were still getting help from each other. We were tending to each other. We got Black doctors, we got Black nurses, we got Black phlebotomists, we got Black endocrinologists. We have an opportunity here now to say, I'm not going to sit back and wait on you to fix it. I'm not going to sit back and hope and pray that you stop cutting the jobs. We're going to live the way we know how to live, and that's with each other.
That's true. And I have a good friend. She's an Air Force veteran. She's out in Denver, but she's from Waycross, Georgia. When the hurricane came through, those country people didn't wait on FEMA. They got together and they helped each other out. When FEMA finally arrived to them, everything was in order for FEMA to clean up. That's what we have to do. You know what I'm saying?
And like I said, here's a moment where these two entities coincide, because being in the military, you have this programming, and then being Black in America, you had this programming, and it's so hard to, as we said, to deprogram, because you spend so much of your life. It's almost like when you think about when slavery ended, and Reconstruction was there to help transition, enslaved people in a way that they, that would take them away from what they were used to, But what happened is, the minute they started, the system started to see, well, not only are they electing officials, not only are they thriving, not only is this happening, you know, it's almost like a detriment to us. So now we got to, stop this reprogramming and go back to the same programming. And I think it's the same thing when you come, like I said, when you join the military, you go through this basic training where it's just this intense programming to break you down. So we can build you, we can program you the way we want to program you. And then it just depends on, and I tell people from the moment you hit basic training, you are reprogrammed. And it's something that would never get out of you. So now, depending on after years and years of doing this, and one day, either you decide to get out or you retire, and there's no one there to say, to reconstruct you into back into being a civilian, back into this whole new community. But once you get into this community, you still can see the overlap of things, and when you don't have things in place, when you don't have community to help you, when you don't have a system, another system in place to help ground you, to help teach you, to help you mentally, physically, and financially, you do end up doing these things that you say, I can't take it no more. Let me try this. And so that's why, even whether it's in the military or whether it's in the community, that's why you see a lot of people who turn to alternative things to try to cope with the system that's oppressing.
True.
I feel like I want to say, going back to what the caller said that many of us are unable to deprogram ourselves because we don't even know that we have been programmed. We haven't even come to the realization that this world has created us. Right. And so when you said, Toney, that there are some things that'll never get out of you, I beg to differ. I feel like anything that you can name, you have power over and you can uproot it. It takes practice, it takes time, but I believe that it can be done. The work is getting to the point that you can name it. And the only way that you can name it is if you're in relationship with people who are helping you navigate this experiment called life. And we can begin to see things in each other that you can't see by yourself. And so that's why community is so important, because some of us, as you talked about Wash, can I call you Wash? As you talked about Wash, you said that we are suffering in silence, so we're not telling people, we're not engaging in real conversation where we are vulnerable with each other, where we are transparent with each other, where we cry with each other. We're not having those spaces, and we have to curate those spaces. We have to be intentional. Like you said, I have to circle back to my friend and say, wait a minute, I need to check on you because I know it's something wrong with your soul. I know that you are restless. I know that your mind ain't right. I wanted you to know, let's talk about it. We have to have those kinds of spaces so people can begin to see themselves, and then the work can begin.
Yeah.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, you did.
No, I was just going to say, Mr. Gary, who's one of the supervisors at the homeless shelter over there on Asher, powerful, powerful man. I truly believe he's a minister. He never told me that, but anyway, in several of our conversations, when he was telling me his journey of getting out and being a recovery, I think he's been recovered about 25 years. In that shelter, he's a beacon of light for a lot of those veterans, myself included. And I thank him for that daily. Him, Mr. Bob, Mr. Galvin, that has passed on last January. And I just wish we had more of them in the community. But a lot of people don't seek out the programs that are offered for the veterans and the disabled veterans because they don't believe they need the help.
And sometimes we don't seek out the programs because we don't believe that we will be handled with holy hands. Because sometimes when you go into a space and you show up Black and you want help, already from jump, you're treated differently. And you can feel that energy in the air. So some people are like, I want to go, I want to be a part, but you're not going to treat me like this. So whatever I have to do, I'm leaving.
Go ahead. No, I get what she's saying, but Mr. Gary is Black. And he's when I tell you this man is awesome,
You
But I
say
get
that like skin means kin. You say that
no,
like just
but
because a person
his
is black, that means that
he
they're automatically going to be a person who understands what it
I
means to be black,
I
right?
get your
Because
point.
there's plenty of us that are
It's a
black on the
skin folk,
outside and white on the
and
inside.
then they kinfolk.
Right.
I get this.
I appreciate you saying that. I just want to make sure that we're clear though.
Yes.
That because black people, one of the concerns that we have is that if we're just because we're black, we're still operating in a system that forces us to be complicit. So even Mr. Gary, if he has to report to the system, there are some things that he may want to do as a black person that he's unable to do because the system won't let him. And so we have to take into account all of those things when we say, why won't a person do something?
No, but let me explain this about Mr. I don't know about anybody else. I know my dealings with him. He was forthright about the business at hand, and he's the one that a year to the date of me being homeless, I closed on my house. And he was the first person I sent my key picture to because he was like, Mr. Washington, we're gonna have to keep you in here. I said, here, the hell you say? I'm not standing in here. Nope, I'm not standing up in here. But I thank him for all the talks he gave me because in that time and space, I was in one of the darkest places of my life. Mr. Bob, Air Force veteran, he was giving me knowledge. Mr. Galvin, a self-taught chemist, a scientist, brilliant young man that succumbed to his stuff. But when I tell you, it was all relative for me to get to this point right here. Because I'm going to tell you, I was in a dark space. So I can tell you, not in this setting, but all the struggles that I went through was times 10. And I'm thankful to be here because of them.
I think one of the things that we are always saying is that when you don't have that community, you don't have that avenue that can help you address, what's going on with you, that gives you that outlet. Because I think going back to something that was said earlier in the show about that. There's this idea that as Black people or veterans that, hey, I can do this on my own. I'm taught to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taught to be to survive. As a Black person, I'm taught to survive. I'm taught to keep pushing. I'm taught. And then we have this idea that nobody knows what I'm going through. Nobody knows what I'm going through. Don't nobody know mine. Yeah, nobody may not have walked in your shoes. They may not know your personal story, but they have been in your neighborhood, so to speak. They have been on a road that you have been on before. And so a lot of times, because we have that attitude, a lot of people have that attitude. They're not able to be vulnerable, to say, okay, let me listen. And what you were saying about Mr. Gary and how he helped you is that at some point in time, his story could connect with your story. Your story connect with his story. And I think that's one of the things that me and Denise had this conversation about all the time is how can our stories, how can, as Black people, how can we connect our stories so that we can see that your story is my story? And here's what I've done with my story to have a different ending to the story. And you can be able to do the same thing. And so that's one thing that we really need to think about as we start to engage with the community. Let me take this phone call real quick. Call you on the air.
Good morning, Sister Denise.
Good morning,
Good
Ezekiel.
morning, Brother Tony. Good morning,
Good morning.
Brother Washington, to those listening on the internet. It's a good thing to know about his story or history because it brings us up to date, if you will. And there are a lot of things that are occurring now that folks are distressed about, upset about, that they could have and should have been upset and distressed about a long time ago because it's just history repeating itself. When you speak about soldiers after the Civil War, they had a regiment of Blacks called Buffalo Soldiers that were instrumental in ending a lot of the Indian wars, and they were summarily discharged from the military by Teddy Roosevelt, even though some of them had fought with him on occasions, and they were dishonorably discharged from the military, even though they were in their barracks, because they needed a scapegoat, and they discharged the whole unit of blacks. It's been going on ever since we were brought over here in chains. We're the only people that were brought to this country in chains. When I said we, I'm talking about the black man in America. So to make a long story short, the dismantling of the VA system, I think, started with Reagan. Before Reagan, you had access to all the benefits of the VA, with the exception of the pensions. But then they started charging everybody after Mr. Reagan got in office. So I'm saying all that to say that there's an awful lot of hypocrisy going on in our country today. There was a football player, I've even forgotten his name, his ex-football player that never was in Colin Captain, whatever his name was. He was protesting, and that gentleman, if our president didn't disparage him, call him all bad names and what have you, threaten everybody that would hire him and what have you, and he was never able to get back to doing what he did as a quarterback to make a living. Although he was compensated through the court, they kept that silent. He was protesting. Fast forward to just a couple years ago, they protested at the Capitol, used a flagpole to beat up white police as well as black police, and commit treason against our nation, and were exonerated by the same person that disparaged the black football player for protesting in a peaceful manner. Go back a little bit further to 1976, the year of the bicentennial, the 200-year anniversary of the United States of America, and white protesters in Boston, Massachusetts, they're not Baptists now, these are mostly Catholics, tried to stab a black lawyer who didn't have anything to do with busting anything, tried to stab him just because they were outraged about what was going on with busing in the community. Nothing was done about that. Go backwards just a little bit before then, a white mob surrounded Elizabeth Eckler, who is a resident of Little Rock, Arkansas, and was a student at Central High School in 1957, and nothing was done about that. They even beat up a reporter who later died. He was from Memphis. You don't never hear anything about that. So they can protest. When I said they, I'm talking about the white privileged people, and get away with it in ways that are unpatriotic. They use flagpoles to do it and everything they want to, beat up police, beat up white police now, and you saw it. They beat up everybody at the Capitol and then invaded the Capitol. Airman got shot. Well, a young lady got shot trying to breach a secure door. So I'm saying all that to say this. If we don't wake up as to what this country is all about, and we don't need to be reminded, we just need to know our history, because they remind us every day. And with that, I'll get off there and let you guys finish. Mr. Watts, I hope everything works out well for you and your recovery and your endeavors, and keep up the good work. I'm better myself.
Likewise.
So it's coming in. There's a lot more people out here that are listening. They just won't call in and let you know how much they appreciate you. But I appreciate your efforts. Y'all keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, man.
I want to get these couple of comments in before we go. We were talking, this goes back to when we were talking about why people are silent, what keeps people from participating in the programs. And Deidre says, sometimes you don't believe you deserve it, right? And if we talk about the conditioning and we talk about the programming of Black people in America, the narratives are always that we are sorry, we are lazy, we no good, we useless, we worthless. And sometimes we repeat those same things in our homes. And so our children grow up believing those lies. And so then when you get to the point where you are having a real hard time, and you say, well, I'm going through this, but who's going to help me? Who wants to help me? And so sometimes we have to realize the impact on our psyche with what comes out of our mouths, especially as we try to fight what's coming out the mouth of society. And then here's someone else, Favi, did I say your name right? Hello, friends. Thanks to Dr. Solo, who cured me of high blood pressure. He also gets people cured from several diagnosed diseases and viruses like HSV, HPV, cold sores, lupus, HIV, cancer, diabetes, hepatitis B, low sperm count, fibroid, ALS, epilepsy, HPV, COPD, sores, cancer, gonorrhea, high blood pressure, HSV, hair, skin and face infection, X-back, all of these things. And so you can learn more on WhatsApp. So thank you, Fabi, for giving us this information about Dr. Solo, who can help you get cured. Y'all have any of those things? Holler at us. We'll get you in contact with Fabi. Okay.
Okay. So, hey, we out of time. So I want to thank Mr. Washington, Sean Washington, joining us. We couldn't get him on the phone last week, but to me, that's just as Denise said, that's just the universe. Because we needed him in studio.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we needed him in studio for this conversation. So, any last words, Denise?
If we want to live in a world that is more just, more equitable, more peaceful, and more inclusive, we have got to learn how to live and love differently.
Mr. Washington.
I pray that all my veterans and disabled veterans get involved in the movement that is coming, because we need your numbers to be a fist for this administration.
Okay. And so I got to get out of here. I think me and Denise had this little inside joke that we talk about a lot of times. Is, it makes me laugh. She's serious. I'm laughing about it every time we talk about it. But I think she mentioned it on Tuesday when I wasn't here. So I got to go because I got to go to the Capitol because I got to go help the people. And y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day and keep listening and keep dominating the KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people.
Bye.
Bye.